Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion. Your host, the Hut, and welcome back to the Baseball Hut. And hopefully, you can get through this live stream. Hopefully, I can get through this live stream. I was not planning on doing that live stream tonight, but obviously, big news, breaking news, huge news. Mets traded Brandon Nimmo tonight. I would mention, as you can hear, I have laryngitis. I don't feel sick, but I sound terrible. I sound much worse than I normally sound, to be honest with you. But please like this video and hit the hit the subscribe button. Yes, Cosmo Carbone, you sound sick. I really don't know. Um, I don't think I sound that bad. But the point being is the Mets made this big trade tonight. I had to come on so you get my reaction. I did a video before. Uh, they made a big move before, and it was shocking because I didn't think the Mets could move the contract. But the Mets have a good relationship with uh, a very good relationship with the Rangers because of the whole thing with Scherzer and getting Acuna. So they have that relationship, especially with Chris Young down there. So they were able to work this deal out. I guess that deal had been completed a couple of days ago, and they asked them to approve the trade. So that's good. And he just decided to accept the deal. It's sad to see him go. Uh, the word is that the Mets are not happy having made this deal. They weren't too happy because they love the player, and he's a great kid. So to see him go in this deal, it's tough. It's not going to be easy seeing him in another uniform. You know, because I was hoping we could have seen him in this uniform for a long time. But when you are in a situation where this organization is right now, you have to start looking outside the box and try to improve your team wherever you can, because this has been a perpetual cycle since 2019. When the Mets would play terrible, they play well. They play terrible. They play great. They play terrible to get the postseason. They were too inconsistent. And he was getting older. His defensive metrics, I guess, were starting to take a step back, even in left field for him. He did make a lot of bad plays at times this year. Last year he was good in left field. This year, not so much. Uh, but this was one of these moves that it hurts right now for a lot of fans because they love the player. But it's funny. I love players. I like players. I love Pete. I love Nimmo. But if they move on, they move on. Only two players I ever got really uptight about leaving, um, as a Met fan, as Gary Carter and Keith Hernandez when they both retired. Well, not retired, when they both left the Mets. That's the only time I really got upset about a player not being here after many years. And Nimmo was here a lot longer than Keith and Gary were. So, I kind of look at it, and plus Keith's still around. But the point being is that this was a move that needed to be made, and we need to see more moves. These are the kinds of things that I've been talking about on this channel. I don't know if anybody else has been talking about Nimmo getting moved. I think I was probably the first one to really talk about it. Then we started hearing rumors about it over the last week or two that they were shopping him. But I said they needed to make moves like this to jolt this team. And from what I understand about Semien, is that he's a very intensive guy. He's intense, very intense about winning. He's the kind of player that doesn't eats and drinks winning. He wants to win. He doesn't accept anything less. That is something this organization has lacked for a long time. Now, when I heard that a little while ago, I was like, "That's good. That's a good sign. That's good because it means that the Mets are taking this clubhouse situation seriously. Because the problem isn't that, like I said, isn't that there's bad guys in the Met clubhouse. All guys in the Met clubhouse are great, really. but it's not worked. It's not working. Okay. And if it's not working, there's no reason to hold on to this group of guys. you know, there's no reason to. And I was interested to see uh, if they could move Nimmo, and they did. Now, what's funny is they've taken more years down there in Texas, but that team's trying to get rid of money. They're trying to get rid of money because there's been all kinds of talk all the last couple of days of Corey Seager going next. So they're trying to change their team too because they didn't win. They haven't won the last 2 years after winning the World Series. They have a young manager down there. They're trying to reshuffle their team a little bit. But so in a lot of ways they're very similar, and they have Jacob DeGrom down there. They have good pitching down there, so they're not throwing their cards out the window. But they do want to get rid of some of that money. But to get back to Semien, this is not so much about the offense. Okay, this is a guy. If you look at his offensive numbers over his career, been very up and down, inconsistent. He'll hit really well at times, and then he drops off. But his defense is the thing that the Mets really liked about him. But this is not really uh, the kind of deal. It's going to be deals after this. The other deals after this are what's most important. It's not so much with this deal, but all the moves after this. What's going to happen with Jeff McNeil? What's going to happen with Pete Alonso? What's going to happen with Edwin Diaz? What's going to happen with Mark Vientos? What's going to happen with Acuna? What's going to happen with Brett Beatty? Are they going to bring back Harrison Bader? There's all kinds of talk about him tonight. That they wanted to bring him back to be sort of another outfielder here. What's going to happen with Carson Bench? Because Dave Sturz said that Bench was going to be part of this team if he can make the team out of spring training. So, the Mets obviously have big plans here. And what I like about it is I compare this a lot to the Blue Jays of the 80s, but we can also look back to 2007. Obviously, we know what happened in 2007. They collapsed. That's the worst collapse in this thing, in my opinion, because that was so sudden over the course of 3 weeks. This is different because this happened over the course of 4 months. And the pitch just got grounded down into nothing. But what happened in 2007 was you had, first of all, I think there was a lot of shenanigans down in Philadelphia, in my opinion. I think the Phillies did a lot of dirty business down there because there was all kinds of rumors that they were doing in 2010. There had been rumors with Charlie Manuel, the former manager down there, when he was with the Indians. So there's all kinds of, but that's part of my opinion. I have no proof of that. But also we mentioned that the Phillies players themselves are still hung up on those Mets teams. Okay, you beat the team. What are you still hung up about? But anyway, after that season, Omar and I didn't take a hard look at that team and said, what happened over the course of those last few weeks that made this team basically fall apart? And that team similarly played like they did the previous September, where they played 500. Different was in 2006, that big lead. Eventually, they won 97 games, but they struggled to beat the Cardinals. They lost to the Cardinals in 7 games. And what we learned about those teams. Okay, so when we went to 2007 and they lost, the only move that Omar made was he brought in Santana. Instead of saying to himself, all right, what happened in this dynamic? Because there were problems in that clubhouse. We know there were problems with some of the Hispanic players and some of the other players like Paul Loduca. And Loduca was having all kinds of problems with them because they weren't talking after the game and they were leaving all on the white players. So there was a real disconnect between the Los Mets and the white Mets. Okay. And it didn't seem to be any kind of in between. And it doesn't seem like Omar really addressed it. And part of it is when you have a bad team, um, a bad situation at the end of your team season, you have to make drastic moves. And we know that that team had some real character issues. Look at that last game when Tom Glavine had nothing in the first inning, had nothing. He had 7 runs and only gotten one out in that, 2 outs or whatever it was in his final start. What a disaster. After the game, he said, well, there are more important things or something to that effect. And this wasn't that devastating. There are more important things that are devastating in life. And I thought to myself, where's the sense of urgency? Now, the one thing we saw with this season was the lack of urgency on this team. Semien, I guess, has this sort of reputation of being a guy that plays with urgency, I guess. We'll learn more about him over the next few weeks, what people are saying about him in particular. But I thought that reading about that made me perk my ears up because this is a team that needs somebody in that clubhouse to give them a swift kick in the ass. And that's what they've been lacking for a long time. They've been lacking that for a long time with this club. Or somebody that's going to push them that's in the everyday lineup. Uh, and I would hope, excuse me, as I deal with this cold. Hold on, I need to drink a little. Excuse me for this cold, really. Uh, so this lack of urgency is what we saw, aside from the lousy pitching. I feel that, I don't know what you guys think in the chat, but did you feel a lack of urgency from day one of this season? Because I know I felt it. I don't think I know I didn't talk about it, but it's always something you can't like put your finger on it with your team. It's something that pops up as it goes along, and then you realize this team doesn't have it. And the fact that they didn't have one, that they didn't have one late game comeback, not one, in the ninth inning, tells me how much this team needed somebody in that clubhouse to say, "Let's get this shit going," or get it in the face of some of these players. Let's get going. Let's go. Let's go. We didn't see that, and I think that was one of the major problems. Um, you know that this team need to address, and hopefully they've addressed it with this first move. Let me just read the chat a little bit. James McEwen, feel better, huh? Thank you. From Cosmo Carbone, the move had to happen. Mets haven't won, and Cohen is a businessman. I applaud the Mets to make this tough move. He's not afraid to make the big moves. A prodigy. But if they execute on the margin, they would have had at least 90 wins. Exactly. Had a ninth inning comeback here or there. They have won it. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? They have one move, any kind of comeback in the ninth inning. Is that crazy? Bad teams have comebacks in the ninth inning. The 62 Mets had comebacks in the ninth inning. The 93 Mets had comebacks in the ninth inning. That to me is one of the worst teams Mets have had during my time. It's the 93 Mets. You want to see a bad team? You want to see a team that doesn't give a shit? That's the 93 Mets. But you have, like I said, the problem isn't this team is full of bad guys. Hardly. Brandon Nimmo plays hard. Okay? Brandon Nimmo's a good guy. But that contract was a problem. And I think they were trying to figure out what to do with him. I think they thought about having him be a DH. I think they thought about having him do something with him on the infield. I don't know what they had planned to do with him. But that contract was a problem. That was an 8-year contract for a guy that was a leadoff hitter. He's not a leadoff hitter anymore. And he's 32 years old. Was he 33 years old? He's going to be 34 years old next year. I guess in March. So he was 33, 32 now. But he's going to be 33 in the next spring, I think. But the point being is that that contract was a problem. They got rid of they got 2 years off. Now the problem with Semien is he's 35. But sometimes you need guys that are veteran players that are gonna kick ass. Okay, you don't need to have the best player on your team to be that. Okay, and I would hope Simeon will be that, but we'll see. This is just the start of the moves the Mets need to make this team better. Uh, and it's funny, I talked a lot about Nimmo over the last few days because that jerk off Adam Ottavino went after him. And Ottavino's like, oh, he's not going to get traded. He's not going to accept. He's not accept being traded. He's going to take it as an insult. Well, he accepted the trade, the moron. And again, I would mention about Ottavino. Uh, Ottavino is desperate that people watch his boring YouTube channel. You go and check out the views on his channel. They are woeful. They're terrible. You know. He's trying to be like Trevor May. He's not Trevor May. Trevor May is entertaining, and Trevor May doesn't run down his teammates. And I don't think that people say, "Well, this is an insider's view of the club." I'm sorry. He played this year. To me, that's talking outside of school. That's not being respectful towards your teammates and towards your friends. Okay. I don't think that he's friends with Nimmo. He's probably right, ripped into him. He's probably not friends with, certainly hates Mendoza. But we saw that last year when he showed him up on the mound. And it went unnoticed by the media. I noticed it right away. I mentioned it in my video yesterday about Ottavino. But anyway, just wanted to mention that because I've been talking a lot about Brandon. I'm sorry to see him leave. To repeat myself, I'm sorry to see him leave. But sometimes you need a move that's going to jolt the entire organization saying, we're serious about winning. And if a player has gotten to a point where he's won't pass due to that needs to for the things you need to do, then you have to move him. I know a lot of people are going to be very upset by this move. I think a lot of people are upset by this move. But I don't get too worked up. It's all about the name on the front. I don't care about the name on the back. To be honest with you, you know. But it's a shame that it's had to come to this. But they didn't play well in September. They didn't play well since June. They have to make moves. They have to make more moves. And according to Prodigy, who's in the Mets organization, says there will probably be a lot more trades. I think so. I think a lot of young players are going to be out of here that are on this 40-man roster. They need to get pitching in here desperately because now they don't have a left fielder. They have a second baseman who's a great second baseman with the Gold Glove. But and improves the defense from first base to second base. You would hope that will improve Francisco's defense at shortstop because he did not have a good year defensively, in my opinion. Okay, and the years past, last 3 years, he's played great defensively, but this year he played terrible. You know, I'll say if a player is good. If I have issues with a player, or if I don't like a player, I'll say if he's good or not. And as you know, I've complained a lot about Lindor over the years. But the last 2 years, he's been terrific. And to be honest with you, his defense has been very good. He should have won at least 3 Gold Gloves with the Mets. But this past year, he was terrible defensively. A Project says, if I had to say, I'd put Soto on left, Benjamin right, and get someone else for center field. Well, maybe Bellinger. Because they were talking, people were talking about Cody Bellinger all night. You know, let me put this on here, put this message on here. You know, I think that makes a lot of sense. And Bench has a great arm. He was a pitcher in college, you know. Just going over a couple of things. Now, please, in the meanwhile, please like this video and subscribe. This is a tough night. If you're a Met fan like we're all Met fans in here. It's a tough night, you know. And like I said, I wasn't planning on doing a live stream tonight. Now, I would have been fine, just doing my videos and stuff and talking about whatever. But this was too big of a deal for me to not be on live. I didn't feel like being on live right after the trade had happened. I got too much stuff. I just got home right before that, so kind of up in the air what I was doing. But it's gonna be um, there's gonna be more pain coming because this team needed to win this year and they didn't do it, and now we're gonna see more players getting moved. You know, and my attitude about this club is very. Um, I've been very hard on them, and I'm going to continue to be hard on them. I'll tell you what I think is good, what isn't good. I'm not happy with the bench coach situation. I can't say much about anybody else, but the bench coach balls me because I don't really care. I don't know what to expect. You don't have a backup plan in case the team gets off to a slow start. But I was happy they got rid of the pitching coach. I'm happy that they made this trade just for the overall sense of the organization tonight. That means that Stearns is looking at this thing very seriously behind the scenes, saying that this team's been together too long and it needs to get better and it needs to start doing, they need to start making big moves and earth shattering moves. This was an earth shattering move tonight. Like I said, this rocks the entire organization from the ground up. When you have a player that's been in the organization for 15 years and he was a developmental win for the minor leagues for this team, this organization, and to become a leader on this team, to be a very important player on this team, to be a great leader on this team. Um, to see this move now, it's like I said, it's earth shattering, and it sends a message. And this is what we talk about with accountability. We talk about accountability with managers. You fire managers, you get rid of their coaching staff. The manager was held accountable because he lost his entire coaching staff. If things don't turn around beginning next year, he's going to be gone. Now, one of the things I've talked about for many years with this group, and I don't know if anyone's ever talked about it, and as far as I know, nobody does. We talked about this group since 2019. They've gone through 5 managers. Okay, Pete Alonso's had Mickey Callaway, Carlos Beltran. We don't really count Beltran so much. Louis Rojas, Buck Showalter, and now Carlos Mendoza. That's 4 managers in 7 seasons, plus one that he didn't get to play under. And then, of course, Nimmo had Terry Collins as well. So in the 9 years that Brandon was here, he had 6 managers. Just think about that. So you have to ask yourself, what's the problem here? It's the players. It's this group. Now, if Semien comes in here with this edge, they need it. They need to bring in some more players with an edge. Okay, even if the player is at the end of the line or getting close to the end of the line, that's still important to have in that clubhouse. We saw how important it was to have veteran leadership in that clubhouse last year with JD Martinez, Iglesias, and the pitcher. What the hell is his name? The lefty. But the point being is that this needed to be done tonight. That's a good thing. I'm happy about the trade. Just the fact that they made this kind of commitment to really taking things very seriously, not doing things on the edge and say, well, we're bringing a pitcher here, a pitcher there. No. Or fire the manager. Saying thank you, Quintana. I'm just talking off the top of my head. I started forgetting. There's so many players that come in and out of here. Excuse me. But this opens up the door, opens up everything for the Mets now, this trade. Because now they don't have a left fielder. They don't really have a center fielder. Even though they re-signed Tyrone Taylor, which I was surprised they did that. This opens the door for Kyle Tucker. This certainly opens the door for Cody Bellinger. Okay, because Bellinger has a lot of, he could do a lot of things. He could play left field, he's great left field. He can play center field, he's great center field. He can play first, a very good first baseman. So he has a lot of flexibility. He has a ton of value as a player. To be able to play these kinds of positions over the course of a season. I mean, he won a game for the Yankees during the season when he made a great play against the Mets. So we know his defensive ability firsthand. And that's a player, zero in on him as the next big move for the Mets to bring in here. The first big move to bring in here is Bellinger. More Bellinger than Tucker. I'm not too sold on Tucker for $400 million. I would not give him that. Okay, I can have a better contract for Bellinger, and he can do more things. And he's been an MVP. He can play in New York, although he'll get off to a slow start with the Mets, just like what Soto did this past year. But you see what I'm saying? You need that flexibility. Now, obviously, they want to bring back Pete, but Pete's got a big market now because he doesn't have a qualifying offer on him. Baltimore, we're hearing. Boston. I believe Baltimore signed somebody when I see it, by the way. Even though the new ownership wants to spend money, they haven't done that yet. And I don't think that trade they made for Taylor Ward was that good of a trade, in my opinion, for Grayson Rodriguez. You need pitching. You trade one of your best pitching prospects. What do you need more offense for? That trade made 0 sense to me. So if they make a trade, if they sign Pete, I would be shocked. I would be shocked if they made a trade for Pete. Sign Pete Alonso. This is the Orioles. Be shocked. I would see him going more to Boston. But let's see a couple of things. All right, this is from Mike Puma. The Mets approached him on Friday, asking to waive his no trade. He spent the next day or so considering it, including a chat with Jacob deGrom, before giving his okay. It's from Michael Moreno. It's about David Stearns. The model the Brewers use put in place by David Stearns emphasizes run prevention. Look at the 2025 Brewers. This is the model he's trying to bring with the Mets. More money. The Brewers were third in MLB in field and runs value per Baseball Savant. Mets were 19th, -5. You know, they've been trying to get better defensively, but it's hard when you have these older players here that are mucking things up with the. I am on Facebook, folks. I am not on here doing a live stream on here, but I post pictures a lot of times. Okay, and some of these boomers don't know how to you know, they'll write to you instead of leaving comments in the comment section. I'm getting so many DMs from these boomers on Facebook. It's like, dude, you've been on Facebook for 15 years. Anyway, A Prodigy says, I also wouldn't be sold on Diaz returning. I wouldn't either. And the reason I say that is because he doesn't like giving out contracts to big relievers. I mean, I can see him signing Devin Williams. I would mention again, Edwin Diaz has been part of this situation too. He's been here too for a long time. Okay? He's the reason, one of the reasons they didn't win in 2019 was because of how poorly he pitched that year. How many games he lost late? At least 6 or 7. And those games could have been a wild card spot for the Mets in that year. So he's been part of the problem too at times here. And they had him for 20 and 21. He didn't pitch well. He got really good in 22. He was great in 22. He was great this year, but last year he was shaky. Obviously, 23 was hurt. And he's important. But he's been part of this group here too. So the idea that you got to be sold on any of these players, considering the Mets situation, the Mets are going to be good no matter what next year. I expect them to contend for the division, okay? Or at least a wild card. They'll be in the middle of the wild card. They're going to be good. So I'm not one of these people that's saying, Stearns doesn't know what he's doing. None of that. Now, if they don't win next year, he's going to have a lot of heat on him. That's an obvious thing. But you have this group has been together for many years. Nimmo, Lindor, Alonso, McNeil, Diaz. You add Soto to the mix. He wasn't a problem in September. He carried the team in September. But now Nimmo's gone. Okay. Conforto was there for a long time. He was a problem. you know, his up and down play, his inconsistency. But Diaz was here a long time. They didn't win. They had Nimmo here a long time. They didn't win. Okay. Lindor's been here. They haven't won. McNeil's been here longer than that. They haven't won. and obviously Pete's been here. They haven't won. So you can't keep running out the same group every single year. Because you just do the same things again, over and over and over again. You're just gonna have the same result, the same problems. You want to have a good team that's gonna win and be good in the clubhouse, and have players that are in that clubhouse that just want to win and don't have whatever the problem's been in that clubhouse. You know, because sometimes you have players that are talented, but do they have the wherewithal, that little extra? Now I know Juan Soto has that extra because we saw that with the Yankees last year, especially in that at bat that he had in Cleveland. So he has that ability to grind out at bats. That's the one thing I'm not happy about, was watching these at bats, how poorly they were, how bad they were. Look at some of the at bats that they had in that final game in September. Oh, did they have like one inning where it was like 7 pitches? You're fighting for your lives. You gotta do better than that. You know. Uh, so this sort of grinding it out, they just don't grind out enough. They don't dig deep inside to win the battles every day. And Soto said, your most important games, your most important at bats are in August and September. He knew how important those games were, and he brought it. But you didn't see that kind of production from the rest of this team on a consistent basis. Now, Brandon Nimmo, for all his great things, was gotten very inconsistent over the years, especially this past year. It's extremely inconsistent. Extremely inconsistent. You know, Pete's up and down, but Pete's a power hitter. I can accept that. McNeil, is he a batting champion? Is he a power hitter? Is he each year a light? What the hell is he? I don't think he knows. So that's why he'll probably be gone too. The timing of the trade was surprising because it's a Sunday night, Sunday before Thanksgiving. The winter meetings isn't for what, another 2 weeks? Is that for another 2 weeks, I think? So we have a few weeks till then. Let's see. Yeah, the winter meetings are in another 2 weeks. So we have like another 2 weeks to talk about this stuff, and talk about where the Mets are going. Now, probably, if I'm feeling up to it tomorrow night, maybe I'll do a live stream tomorrow night too. I'm going to be very active this week. A lot's going to depend on my voice, obviously, because this cold sucks. Having this cold sucks because I feel fine. I'm not tired. I'm not feverish. My toe has been scratched. It's been hurting. But for the most part, I felt pretty good. But we'll see if I do a live stream this week again. And I'll be on camera. We'll see how I feel tomorrow. The only reason I'm not on camera is going to feel great. So just sort of sitting here, no hat on, just sort of sitting in not my pajamas, but my sweatpants. But, so we'll see how the rest of the offseason is. This is just the beginning. The first salvo of shaking this entire organization up, because that's what was needed. Once you have that kind of catastrophic loss, you have to move on, and you have to be very bold. Now, what's interesting this time around, as opposed to 2007, was that this group was not put together for the most part by Stearns. Omar put that team together. Okay, we still have a lot of Sandy Alderson players here. And David Peterson, I would also say he's been part of this thing too. So I wouldn't be shocked if he got moved too. And we'll want to monitor whether Scooble gets moved because the fact that they brought in Semien frees up a lot of players here. Because if he's going to be in the next 3 years, and you get the kind of the kind of defensive production that you've gotten out of him, that the Rangers have gotten, the Mets are going to be in good shape defensively. Offensively, that's a different story. Hold on a second. I had a problem here with my nose. Hold on a second. I had to blow my nose. Back in a second. Sorry about that. And to take care of a little business here. But talking about these young players, like I said earlier, Acuna's probably going to get moved. We'll see if Jed Williams gets moved because now he doesn't have a place to play at second. Okay. Uh, I would think Mark Vientos is probably out of here. I wouldn't bring him back because I can't play him at first. He's not in my opinion. He's not a good first baseman from what I've seen. And the Mets are going to want to have flexibility at the DH spot. I'm not sold on Beatty at third. I'm not sold on him. If the Mets were sold on, he would have been playing a hell of a lot more the last year or so. If they thought he was the guy that they wanted to play third, and he got hurt again the last week. Ronnie Mauricio, that should look to move him. Okay. There are plenty of players on this 40-man roster in particular that should go. I should probably get the 40-man roster in front of me. But in the meanwhile, again, please like this video and subscribe to the Baseball Hut. Let's see. I mean, it's disappointing to see a player that you love get traded, but the Mets need to do this. It needed to happen today. It needed to happen, and I'm glad it happened because it was necessary. And long health of this organization. And it's nothing wrong. There's nothing against Brandon. Nothing against Brandon. Let me see. Let's take a look at the roster on the side here. Let's see. Just want to look at the infield. Brandon was still on here, but not for too much longer. But looking at this infield, Mets got Acuna, Beatty, Mauricio, McNeil, and Vientos. All those guys could go. Other than Lindor, everybody could go off this 40-man roster. And the outfield is obviously Nimmo's gone. Jared Young's still here, believe it or not, interestingly enough. Tyrone Taylor's still here. They had this Ji-Won Bay. Don't know much about him. Of course, they announced the other day that Nick Morabile's on the 40-man. But really, we were hearing all kinds of rumors that Acuna, Beatty, Mauricio, and Vientos could get moved, and I would expect probably at least two of them are going to get moved. McNeil's going to get moved. I can guarantee you that one. That one's going to happen. Either between now or by now and the trading deadline, by now to the winter meetings, I expect him to get moved. Because that contract's not a bad contract. Because well, that contract's bad. Bull. That contract is not bad at all. There's only 1 year left on it, plus the option. And if the team doesn't want the option, they give him a $2 million buyout and send him flying out of there like a catapult. And like I said in the video, catapult big deal out of here in a catapult. But so this is a good first step in terms of where the Mets need to go to change the dynamic of this team and to change the dynamic within that clubhouse. They're a little too nice. Okay, that's the thing about Brandon. It's not a bad thing as a human being, but in terms of baseball, in terms of everyday grind, you need a son of a bitch in that clubhouse. You need more people like that in your clubhouse. And hopefully they'll do that. Hopefully they'll bring in some more grinders into that clubhouse, and that aren't going to go, you know, be dilly along the way. You know, uh, what's interesting is that he was a connection to David Wright, Brandon. You know, Dave Wright's connection to Mike Piazza, Mike Piazza's connection to John Franco connection to Darryl Strawberry to those great Met teams. So that connection has been broken a little bit, but we will see over the next couple of days what the fallout of this is. Because this move came out of nowhere. Nobody was expecting this. Nobody. And I thought I was seeing things. I got a notification on my phone on X. I was like, what? I thought it was a fake account. There's so many fake accounts out there, people. I thought it was a jet. It's like, why would I do that? You know? But no, that was a real account. That's the real Jeff Passan. Then announced the trade of Nimmo to the Rangers. But so that's the first real big move now. Is that move of Nimmo going to Texas? And I guess the Mets play them in September. They play in September, I think, down in Texas, down in Arlington. That ballpark's not too popular down there in terms of just the run production. The real hitters park. They have talent down there. They have some pitching. They certainly have a lot of pitching with Jack Leiter and Rocker and obviously Big Rom. So let me run down my list before we end this live stream. Got a whole bunch of players that are on the market. That could go anywhere. I would mention I watched some of the stuff on SNY. You know, where they were asking, Todd Zeal and Steve Gelbs, and I saw Gary Cohen was on there. Gary has to get that thing checked that's on his neck. I don't know what the hell that is on his neck. That's scary looking. It's got like a bolt's coming out of his neck. We've seen this before. It was big, but not like this. Oh my goodness. I don't know if it was a goiter or what. It's like some kind of weird Seinfeld episode. I mean, my goodness, Gary, get it checked. I don't know if anybody saw that. He looked like he was getting his hair cut. He was in some kind of, and the thing sticking out of his face. It's weird. All right. Now I got this list, and this is kind of artificial intelligence influenced a little bit. Some of it's been pretty much spot on about what some players. Hadn't too many players moved yet. But we got, let's start up with Kyle Tucker. Now, the Mets might be in on him now, but I don't see them spending $400 million on this player. He's a little older than Juan Soto from last year. I don't see him doing this. But AI is saying that the Dodgers are going to sign him to a 10-year, $385 to $425 million contract. I would not do that. He's a good player, but he's not a Hall of Famer. Pete, where's Pete going to go? We got a whole bunch of teams. The Mets will be in it until the very end. San Fran, Philadelphia, Boston, the Cubs. I've heard Cincinnati. I'll believe that when I see it. And Baltimore. AI said Boston. There's not an update. This is about a week old now. But Boston, 6 years, $168 million. Edwin Diaz. Here in the Toronto Blue Jays. Obviously, because they looked to get they had Jeff Hoffman close the game out. As soon as Jeff Hoffman came in that game, in Game 7 against the Dodgers, I knew they were going to lose. Because he was going to give it up, and he coughed it up in the ninth inning. That's a mediocre reliever. But it seems like the Blue Jays are going to sign him, according to AI. This is Edwin Diaz, 4 years, $88 million plus a fifth year. Dylan Cease, I've heard the Cubs from AI. Zach Gallen, the Yankees, a 5-year, $120 million deal. What are the Yankees doing? They re-signed Trent Grisham. Well, that's a great idea. Fred Valdez, I've heard San Francisco. This is after I heard Toronto. Bo Bichette, I've heard Toronto. Corey Bellinger, I've heard the Mets. On the Yankees. Maybe it's now more the Mets now. He has got a ton of flexibility. Like I said, can play the outfield, can play first. Ranger Suarez. The Mets, I've heard. I don't know if they want to bring another lefty in here. Kyle Schwarber. Now, if they do a lefty, it'd be a schoolboy, I would think. Kyle Schwarber, he's going to go back to the Phillies. I'd be shocked if he didn't. Murakami, one of the Japanese players. I've heard Seattle. Jeff McNeil, believe it or not, he's going to get traded. I think we talked about that. AI St. Houston. I should ask AI right now. See where McNeil is going to go now, according to AI. Now, please, of course, like this video and subscribe to the Baseball Hut. And again, if you're watching our replay, please forgive my bad voice. I have laryngitis, and I've been sick for about a week. But I don't feel sick. I just sound sick. Okay. Twist Your Dream says Senga means Senga, not Senga. And Jet Williams, Boston for Duran. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see that happening. I have him down as one of the teams. So I have him down. Boston is not on one of the teams. Is not on the list of Senga. You're just making that up. Let's ask AI. The most likely place he's going to get moved to is Houston. Then the Angels, Kansas City, San Francisco, the Pirates, and the Tigers. Teams also listed as the Mariners and the Diamondbacks. But there's competition for a utility guy because of Brendan Donovan on the market. He's a keep an eye out on him for the Mets. So, and of course Jorge Polanco. Let's see. If the deal happens, expect a modest return, likely mid-tier prospects or a controllable reliever given McNeil's expiring deal and recent slump. So right now, he's going to Houston. So that's where he'll go. Let's see. Brandon Nimmo got traded to the Rangers tonight. David Peterson, keep an eye on him. He could be a centerpiece for school. He was also been part of this team for a long time. And he's got 1 year left on his contract. Joe Ryan, I've heard Boston. Logan Gilbert, Boston. Merrill Kelly, Arizona. Chris Bassett resigned with Toronto. Alex Bregman resigned with Boston. Michael Conforto staying on the West Coast. Skip a little bit. Tariq Skubal, they're saying the Tigers. He's going to stay with the Tigers, but we'll see. When I feel better, we'll go through the entire list that I have. There's just too many names for me to go through and too many teams' names. But Jack Flaherty resigned with the Tigers. Gleyber Torres resigned with the Tigers. Josh Naylor signed a 5-year deal with the Mariners. That's how I know that Pete's going to get a lot of money. And AI had the money pretty much right on. About $7 million off. Let's see. Taylor Ward got traded to the Orioles and a bad deal by the Orioles. But that doesn't surprise me. They got a bad GM. Adolis Garcia, he's got Garcia got non-tendered as well as Jonah Heim as part of their makeover down there. Mark Vientos again is going to get traded to the White Sox for Robert Jr. For Luis Robert Jr. I wouldn't do that trade. It's a bad trade. He's a bad player. He's not a good player. Shadama Abanaga resigned with the Cubs. Raciel Iglesias resigned with the cheap-ass Atlanta Braves. People say, the Braves are going to spend $50 million. Where? Resigning players? I don't see them making any kind of big moves. Twister Dream says the Mets also need a DH as well. Well, we'll see. That is not the priority. Priority is pitching. That is the priority. And now that Nimmo is gone, they will bring in a big player in. Probably Bellinger, I would think. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I saw him enough with the Yankees. He's a good player. And it'd be funny to watch the Yankee fans get pissed off again 2 years in a row. You know, it was great last year. We'll have some more fun at their expense again. Uh, but I do have Doran on my list. Sharon Doran on my list. The Padres. The Padres on a weird spot because they're going to get sold. And they're trying to get rid of payroll too. So keep an eye on them with the Mets as well. But the Mets did save money with this trade tonight because Semien doesn't make nearly as much money or have as many years in his deal that Brandon had. Uh, and again, to see Brandon Nimmo leave is a shocker tonight. I'm very surprised at this trade because I didn't want to see him go. Okay, and I think the organization is not happy about that part of this. But I think a lot of them are going to come out uh, once this deal has been consummated. Ownership will probably say something about Brandon. Um, the other players, his teammates will say stuff about him because you could make a case that he was the captain of the Mets, not Lindor. Okay, so it's been a tough day as a Met fan. Even though I can move on, and I don't ever want to see a favorite player of mine get moved, and he got moved tonight. Usually players get moved, I'm good. Like, get out of here, get the f out of here. Like when Jacob DeGrom, signed with the. I'll tell you about that story about Jacob DeGrom. Um, it was a quiet off season. The Mets had gone to postseason. I was at a wedding. When that trade went down. I mean, when that signing went down. And I was so pissed. I wasn't home. I was in another city. And even afterwards, I couldn't do a video. I think maybe I did a video. I don't remember if I did. I think I did a video about it in my hotel room, like 3 or 4 hours later. Yeah, I was right on my phone, and then the groom comes up to me and says, "Hey, Hut," because he checked his phone. He cares about what he cares about is baseball too. He goes, "Hut, between the toast, I saw the Mets traded. The Mets lost Jacob DeGrom to the Rangers. He signed with the Rangers." Like what? I didn't ask him why you paying attention. You should be paying attention to your wife, your new wife. But that's where I was when the Mets lost Jacob DeGrom. So I wasn't shocked. I was more pissed off that the Mets lost him that night because I couldn't do any kind of video. I couldn't make any money, you know. But tonight it's a shocker, you know. It's a shocker, you know. It's to see him move. At least he's not in the division because he'll come back to win the Mets. He will do that. He's a good player, and he worked really hard to get where he was at. And I thought there was some years he should have made the All-Star team, and they didn't. For whatever reason, Major League Baseball didn't want him there. Maybe he's too nice. Maybe he's too much of a Christian man to. He'll be better off in Texas and won't have to pay more sales. Won't have to pay any taxes down there. He'll make a hell of a lot more money. Semien's probably not too happy because he's going to pay a hell of a lot of taxes. It's not my problem. It's his problem. Well, actually, it's my problem too because I'm in New York. But I'm in the live streams. My voice is getting worse and I'm getting tired. But I'm going to try to do a stream tomorrow. We'll definitely have an update for you tomorrow. The shocker of a night. And we'll see what happens after this. I expect the Mets to do more stuff, more trades, signings. It's going to be very active. And this is just the beginning. This shook the organization tonight. It shook every Met fan that has a pulse. But you let me know what you think about this video, and let me know what you think about the live stream. I'll be back in the near future. Hopefully I feel better tomorrow. My voice has actually sounded better. I actually sound much better than it has. But still not where I want it. But thank you for watching. Have a good night. Bye-bye, Brandon Nimmo. Find a Nimmo. Well, you found him and he's gone.